Alright, so the year has come to an end. Well, actually, the time of me writing the script this year is still not over. There are still a few days left. But, thought that I'd do something since I've never done a year-end video before. But anyway, 2021 for music as a whole was a pretty good year. Not necessarily one of the best years of music we've had, but there was still plenty of good stuff that was released throughout, as well as some new promising artists and some older artists that have made a good album this year, and some others have clearly not. But I was originally planning to do a video talking about my favorite albums this year, or heck, even thought of doing a ranked video, giving small thoughts on every album that I've heard this year. But then I realized that I'll be repeating most of everything I've said in that Rate Your Music 2021 rank list that been updated since the beginning of the year. By the way, if you wanna check my thoughts on the albums released this year, the link of the list is down there in the description. Now, what I decided to do instead is something that I haven't really talked too much about, and that's my favorite songs of this year. This is the part where you expect me to ramble longer before starting the list.
All my favorite songs are slow and sad.
Okay, so 2 years ago, Weezer has announced a new album to be released by the next year, but because of the pandemic, they had to not only delay the album, but they've also decided to release this one that was supposed to come out after, a few months before band Weezer's official release. And this was the lead single, which for a song to open and represent the album, and on its own, it's actually really good. Despite the overly cheesy lyrics and tone of the song, this is a song that has a lot of charm because of its melody, to its orchestral elements, to its baroque pop instrumentation that seems familiar to Pet Sounds, but it also has some of that sweet Weezer flavor, like that passionately dorky style or Rivers Cuomo's charismatic vocal performance. This one's low on the list because I don't think this one has as much replay value as the rest of the songs in the top 20, and again, its cheesiness can get a little baffling sometimes, but this is definitely one of Weezer's better songs as of recently. Going from album openers to album closers, we have By Storm, a song that just feels like the perfect closer to this unique experimental hip-hop album. The production here, despite being less abrasive than most songs of the record, is a nice mix of calm and shivering. It's a song that uses a Brian Eno sample geniusly as well, definitely a feature worth sticking out. I guess you could say the title of the song really does fit the soundscape. Going back to OK Human, we have in my opinion the best song of the album, Numbers. The song, I think, more than any other, embraces the orchestral elements of this album, which is arguably one of the defining features of OK Human. This makes for a beautiful and soothing instrumentation all throughout, but also Rivers Cuomo's voice here is very pure, bringing a lot of life to the track. For an album that they released just as an appetizer for the release of band Weezer, it's pretty damn good. I really wonder how much we're going to love band Weezer. I really wonder. If there's one word to describe the song, it's enchanting. In every way. This is the most acclaimed song Sperling has ever released, and for good reason. Her voice here is really pure and moving, the piano is really pretty, soothing, as I said before, enchanting, and my favorite part of the song, the synths, gives it a magical, ethereal feel. Donda, 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 it's fine. But this song slaps. This is one of the first few songs on this list that I haven't really heard many songs quite like it. I love that extremely distorted guitar riff that sounds in a way universal, but also that infectious vocal effect. That also in a way sounds universal. Like there's a certain unique grand feel to the song that is instantly memorable the second you hear it. And yeah, Jay-Z's verse is not great, but I don't really care. It's not even that bad anyway, since I think it's easy to ignore. You know, in a time where pop music has been losing so much of its soul and energy from a decade ago, I'm glad that not only songs like this are still around, but it's also songs like this that might be a hint of rock music having the possibility of becoming mainstream again. Granted, I don't like everything that Olivia Rodrigo has made. I was never a fan of Driver's License. I always thought that song was boring. But the song is quite great. Not only is it a really catchy and fun tune, but Olivia Rodrigo also shows a lot of personality in that track, in both the lyrics and her voice. So yeah, a great song. The album that the song comes from felt like a perfect balance of the two hyperpop albums that I've heard, which being 1000 Gecs and How I'm Feeling Now. And while I like those two albums a lot, 1000 Gecs in a way felt too playful, that at times felt like a couple of shitpost songs. Although the shitpost aspect I do enjoy, How I'm Feeling Now was kind of the opposite. Felt like it could have done more with its hyperpop sensibilities. Frailty is not only very playful in the very fully right direction, but it also has its own unique things. And this song is the best example of that. The scenes here are very explosive and entertaining, and the songwriting here is very tight as well. I honestly need to check more albums from this band. Hey What is not only one of the albums of the year that I will classify as forward thinking, but I also will classify as genre pushing. And I think Hey is an amazing example of this. I love the reflective, spiritual, somewhat drony instrumentation of the song. It creates a nice ethereal vibe and atmosphere that feels rewarding from beginning to end. The vocals I like a lot as well. Their high pitch is a little cheesy, but it's not too bothering, and they do fit the soundscape of the song. Speaking of forward thinking, Slow by Black Midi, what a fast-paced, chaotic tune this one is. Very tightly written, it's in your face when it needs to, the balance of the fast and slow parts is great, the melody never gets tiring, you know, great song. Okay, I promise I won't clap anymore. Despite the fact that I've only listened to one Deafheaven album before this, Deafheaven's Infinite Grenade was one of those records of this year that I was the most excited for, mainly because of the direction that this band was going to take here. Did it pay off? Kinda. I like this album, but it suffered majorly from the songs feeling almost kind of the same except for the last track, which is more in touch with Sunbather. That said, I fucking love the song. This is a grand and magical ride of a song that is perfectly overwhelming in spectacle and wonder. In a way, it feels like it's uplifting, melancholic, warm entrance to space. Yeah, it was really not the direction that this band took. The reason as to why the album didn't turn out to be as good as I hoped. I think it was more so that the band was trying to replicate the wonder of the first track for the rest of the tracks, and it wasn't just as good. I think there are a lot of people out there who love Cavalcade much more than I do. Out of the three big hard rock albums that came out in the first half of the year, Cavalcade is my least favorite, not because I think it's a bad album. I think it's a great album, if anything. I just wish the album was as good as Low, as well as good as this song. John L is one of the most exciting and unique rock songs we had in a while. The production is unique, having an ominous and suspenseful tone that remains consistently exciting throughout. I even came to dig the vocals, which I wasn't a big fan of at first. Probably the first album this year from a new artist to gain heavy attention, Black Country's News wrote for the first time, and yeah, it's quite amazing, and so is this song. Opus is quite an exciting roller coaster for a tune. Not only is one of the most tight and perfect fusions of jazz and rock that I've seen in a while, but I also love the build up to the song. The more it goes, the more chaotic it gets, well, in between these verses, which are paced much more slowly, which also fit like a perfect piece to the puzzle. And then there's the vocals, which can get into those chaotic places as well. My favorite part of the song is definitely the last part, because of how much of a rewarding climax it feels, followed it up by the outro. This really does feel like an opus, you know, a magnum opus. Christ bells. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I find this album to be overrated even if I do like it, but even I cannot discredit the song. This is how you open an album, with this exciting, grand and cinematic track that doesn't even feel corny in the slightest. The beat, that really alive hook, and the verses as well are great, with so many great lines such as
Now I don't wanna be the one to doctor this, but if you can't feel pain, then you can't feel the opposite.
or
Angel said don't let ego be a disturbance. In the demon said motherfucker you earn this.
on top with excellent wordplay as well. Every line here is quite good, in fact, and I love the outro at the end too. I think it's a nice touch. I found Little Sims boring throughout most of the album, but this is one of the few exceptions. She's good here. Here's the thing, if you cut all of the fat and filler of Bright Greenfield, this will be my favorite record of the year. Mainly because I think the best songs of this thing are insane. And one of those insane songs, specifically the lead single, is amazing. Narrator radiates so much energy and personality constantly in your face, along with a delightful melody, and god, the crescendo is quite fucking good as well. How much the song ascends into this grand climatic last part is quite magical. You gotta also love those shivering, screaming vocals at the end as well. It's almost like if the song is breaking up. No, scratch that. It's like the song was crushing itself together. Maybe rock really has a I'm going to keep this one short. I don't think I've seen a more mind-blowing fusion of folk and dark wave before. Okay, maybe it's because I haven't seen many of those fusions, but this is fucking amazing regardless. The song wastes no time to jump straight into the suspensive and sinister soundscape present throughout the track, but you also have the vocals which perfectly complement the shivering tone as well. There's not much outside of those elements, but they work together so perfectly that there wouldn't really be a reason to change the song or to make it any longer. And just like many songs on this list, I haven't heard many songs like this before. This is insane and I love it. Did you know that I actually originally gave Sweet Trip's newest album a 5? To be fair, I don't entirely regret that, because I think the album still has a lot of problems that puts it below You Will Never Know Why in velocity easily. But I've come around it, and I will say this is probably one of their best songs. To start, this is Sweet Trip, so I gotta mention the delightful, dreamy vocals. Sweet Trip has always excelled in that, and this is no exception, but the highlight of the song to me are the synths. Jesus Christ, the synths are insane. I love how explosive and adventurous they are. It feels like it feels like a sweet trip. Chapters generally feels like a tight and right fusion of the more glitchy and explosive elements of Velocity and the poppy, more down-to-earth vibe of You Will Never Know Why. It really makes for a really rewarding listen. When you open your song with this distorted as fuck guitar riff, you know you're in for a great song. Okay, so I know this song was originally released in 2019, but it was released differently. I'm talking about the album version here. Just like Opus, the fusion of jazz and rock here is phenomenal, especially when this song hits these anxious peaks, and I love that delightfully rhythmic riff present throughout in the first half of the song as well. It's perfect. And the second half of the song is just as great because of how insane it is. I mainly love the song because of how out there it is. It's really thrilling from start to finish. You know, the term post-hip-hop hasn't been defined yet, but if there was a song that deserves it more than any other, it's this one. I honestly can't wrap my head around this. This song is insane. I've said this to many songs of this list, forward-thinking, unlike anything I've heard before, but I'm telling you this is the most forward-thinking, genre-pushing, unique song of the year. Even if we still have 2 more songs left to talk about, considering this is at number 3. But this song. Words cannot describe its absolute genius. In sound, in structure, in songwriting, I love the disjointed beat of the song so much, not only because it is completely out of this world, but because of how shivering and downright haunting it is. But you also have this bizarre, not linear structure of the track, and of course the lyrics are very haunting as well. Not just because the lyrics are haunting on their own, but also because of how they're being used, and they're being used phenomenally. I'm seriously excited on listening more stuff like this. Like, I hope this song has a huge impact on a lot of the future music that we'll be seeing in this decade, because this song is fantastic. I'm debating whether to put For the First Time or ISA as my album of the year, because I feel like one is more consistent than the other, but I feel like the other one has songs that I think are beyond comprehension. And I think this song is the culmination of every single great aspect of this record, from the more quiet but haunting scenes at the start of the song to how the song wastes zero time to immediately get terrifying in this part specifically. Then setting itself as this suspenseful, anxious song right after. I don't think that gives it enough credit. Just the amount of sonical pieces and ideas put throughout, along with its inventive songwriting and its unique, cryptic tone, makes it for a fantastic song all throughout. For as much praise I gave Narrator to, Narrator is actually not my favorite song of the album. This is. Similar to Ashes, Pamphlets to me feels like a culmination, a big piece of everything great about the album. Heck, I will even say everything great about the rock scene this year in general. The song is, in my opinion, essentially Narrator 2.0, has so much of the energy and personality of that song elevated to a higher level. The songwriting of this song is perfect, not just because of how open and adventurous it is, but also because of the build-up that is quite perfect as well. Like, every section of the song elevates the excitement further, never in any way feeling short, and the climax is just so cathartic. It feels rewarding in every way. The textures are fantastic, the melodies are fantastic, parts of the track like this are fantastic. Pamphlets is fantastic and my definite pick for the song of the year. This song is a masterpiece.